Hi, everybody. I have to say that being asked to talk about men and women in relationships when you know that Esther Perel is going to be after you is like being the opening band for Bruce Springsteen and being told, oh, could you do like a cover of Born to Run while you're at it? So I'm going to try to sort of set the bar, but I think it's going to fail. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. I've been asked to speak today broadly about the topic of how should a man be, and more specifically the topic of men in conflict. And it is a comfortable subject for me because for the past 2 decades, I've been a practicing divorce lawyer, representing men and women primarily in conflicts with each other, about everything from who gets the 401k to who gets the kids on alternating Tuesday evenings for a dinner visit. And I should say I represent a fair number of gay and lesbian couples as well, but in the interest of full disclosure, they so far appear to be much better at staying married than men and women. I hope the trend lasts. I kind of hope the trend lasts. It's not great for my profession if it lasts, but I'm hoping it lasts. It could just be that they're in the honeymoon stage right now. So invite me back in a few years and I'll let you know. So how should a man be? That's the question tonight. And it feels deliberately big. It feels a bit like a Rorschach test, that how you even interpret the question says a lot about what's going on in your head. So I won't claim to know how to answer it. I was trying to think about it when they first posed it to me and come up with like a simple, honest, kind of cool existential answer, like, how should a man be? A man should be how he is. But then I considered the possibility for a moment that a particular man might be an asshole, like our current president, or apparently anyone related to him by blood or marriage, and apparently most of the men in Hollywood, and so saying that they should be how they are doesn't feel quite right. So I thought maybe I would go back to square one. So although I appreciate the invite, I am not going to be able to tell anyone how a man should be, but I have some ideas about a way that I think a man could be better. I fight with men for a living. In every divorce case I handle, I'm either fighting for them or I'm fighting against them. They're either my client or they were married to my client. And fighting with men is a world I'm comfortable navigating. I used to fight mixed martial arts competitively. It's actually why my nose looks like this. It's been broken a few dozen times. I still do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 4 or 5 days a week, so even in my middle age, I still do a lot of actual physical fighting with men. I've been punched in the face and strangled by most of my close friends at this point. And I also have 2 sons who are now ages 18 and 20. And that means I survived their teenage years. And I can tell you without a doubt, that was a big fighting with men time in my life. Unlike my friends, I haven't had opportunity to strangle my sons, but I will admit that more than once when they were in middle school, it crossed my mind. So that's the world I navigate, the world of men in conflict. Whether it's in a courtroom, a cage, or at the kitchen table, I fight men. I fight with them, I fight against them, I fight for them, I watch them fight women, I watch them fight each other. It's something I spend a lot of time directly observing, men in conflict. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. When you're trained in mediation and dispute resolution, they tell you this story about 2 people who are arguing over a lemon. I don't know if anyone's heard this story, but I'm going to share it with you. The story goes that both people want the lemon, and they're both adamant about the fact that they need the lemon. So fairness, just off the cuff, would dictate simple solution, right? Cut the lemon in half. It's fair. It's equal. Nobody gets more. Nobody gets less. Everybody's kind of happy. But the story goes that after the lemon gets cut in half, one person goes off and squeezes the lemon for juice and throws the rest away. And the other person grates the lemon rind for zest and throws the rest away because they wanted the zest for baking. So really, if the 2 people in that conflict had bothered to learn a little bit about what the other one really wanted or needed, rather than just generally saying, I need a lemon, they could have both had 100% of what they needed, rather than 50%. And there would have been nothing wasted and everyone would have lived happily ever after. So the moral of that story, from a conflict resolution perspective, is supposed to be, in a general sense, that what seems to be equal isn't always what's equitable. And it makes a point also about what we call in negotiation circles positional bargaining rather than principle-based bargaining, and how approaching conflict from a win-lose perspective basically prevents your ability to obtain or even identify opportunities where there might be win-wins. And it's a useful concept for people who work in conflict resolution to think about. But not all conflict resolution professionals, which I do consider myself one of, have the same job. We don't all see the same thing from where we're sitting. So therapists and counselors like Esther, they work with people in conflict just like I do, but they work with people who are ideally conscious of the fact that they're trying to find common ground. So those people might be open to the whole lemon sharing thing. The people I'm dealing with are typically in a different situation, or at least coming to the same situation in a different mindset. See, they have things they want, but much of the time they're more interested in making sure the other person doesn't get what they want. So to put it plainly and to tie it to the lemon thing, my clients know they need the juice and their spouse needs the rind, but they're so mad they don't care. Or to put it another way, my clients are typically willing to give up half the juice they need to make sure the other side doesn't get any of the rind. Rind that, again, I remind you, my client doesn't want or need to begin with. And why? Because fuck them, that's why. Okay? Men fight a lot. And a lot of the time they don't do it very well. And I think this is a function of the fact that many men don't navigate their emotional lives very well. And that's nothing shocking and revelatory to say. A lot of people smarter than me have talked about how boys are taught not to express emotions, and other than the emotion of anger, and how they grow into men who don't have the emotional vocabulary to navigate or express what they're feeling. And a lot of people have talked about how we as a culture fetishize men who are invulnerable and physically strong and don't show vulnerability and don't ever get hurt. And when I say men have trouble navigating their ability to be hurt, I'm not talking about the ability to show weakness. Academics have talked about how men aren't allowed to show weakness in this culture for a long time, but I think that dialogue misses the point. I would argue that men are allowed to be weak in a lot of areas of their lives. They're allowed to be intellectually weak. They're even allowed to be proud of being intellectually weak, again, a Trump thing. They're allowed to be emotionally weak and impatient. They're even allowed to be physically weak as long as they're still tough, whatever that means. But they're not allowed to be hurt. And they have no idea how to handle it when they're hurt. And that's a real problem for men because the world hurts every one of us at different times in different ways. And it's one of the things that even with all the benefits of patriarchy, men still can't get around. Men still get hurt a lot. And I spend a lot of time with men who are hurt, and I'll let you in on a secret that probably isn't a secret to most of you. We suck at it. When men are hurt in conflict, in my experience, their first instinct is usually to lash out and attack verbally or physically anyone or anything around them, including themselves, and usually in the most unproductive or counterproductive of ways. I have watched countless men in divorce proceedings destroy the emotional lives of children I know they love in a misplaced effort to punish their wife for cheating on them. I've literally seen that happen hundreds of times in my career. I've watched men burn up every penny that they and their wife worked for decades to save, solely so they could inflict damage on a woman who was leaving them. And that's usually after those same men had cheated on these women or physically abused these women, so it was totally appropriate for these women to leave them. It was, if anything, an act of self-defense. Again, I've seen hundreds of men do this. But in 2 decades of doing this, I could count on one hand the number of men I have heard say to me, "This hurts so bad. I'm so sad right now. I'm so disappointed. My heart feels broken." And I can't help but think those two phenomena are related. And at the risk of making a generalization, women, in my experience, in my office, by my observation, are remarkably better at this. They're better at being hurt, or at least recognizing that they've been hurt. Even in the most protracted, brutal divorce litigation, the women I represent are infinitely better and more capable at seeing the nexus between their hurt and their anger. They've got a far more impressive emotional vocabulary for understanding and thereafter navigating their pain. And I'm confident to the fact that this is a function of the reality that women have been encouraged from a younger age to think about and talk about and develop an emotional vocabulary related to their lives. One that isn't focused on different variations of anger, one that has room for nuance. Now, please hear me. I really want to throw this into the dialogue. This is not another man in a tie with increasingly gray hair telling you to feel badly for men, okay? Or complaining to you about the way men are raised, which is often just code for blaming women, specifically mothers, for things that we as men can't get our shit together on. I'm really not trying to be another voice in the primarily baritone chorus that says that. This is something that men have to fix, but I don't think we can do it without the help and support of women. I can understand why women and other traditionally disenfranchised groups are sick of hearing, feel sorry for men. You don't owe us help or support. I get it. We haven't done much to any of you to make you feel like you owe us much of anything. We've been pretty much taking our share of pretty much everything for pretty much always. So don't do this for us. Do this for yourselves, because angry, hurt men don't know how to process conflict and are a danger to themselves and literally everyone around them. 77.8% of aggravated assaults are committed by men. 89% of homicides are committed by men. 94% of mass shootings in the United States have been committed by men, and 98.9% of rapes are committed by men. So this is a public health problem of the first order. So here's something I've learned doing what I do for a living. When people tell me, even with great specificity, what they want, they're not actually trying to express a specific engineering problem they need assistance with. They're actually trying to describe usually an emotional experience they want to have. And I've even found that the more specific and detailed they are about what they want, the more likely it is that they don't want the very specific thing they're telling me they want. And so take the following example so you understand what I'm saying. How many people here have said at some point in their life, I want to lose 10 pounds? Okay, so a lot of people, myself certainly. So what are you really looking for? You just said a very specific thing. I want to lose 10 pounds. But really what you want isn't to lose 10 pounds. You want one of two things. Either you're looking for an event that's only tangentially related to the thing you just said. So you want to fit into a specific pair of jeans or an outfit of some kind. Or you're just totally disconnected from any specific reality and are, as I said earlier, describing an emotional experience you want to have. You want to feel sexy, you want to feel comfortable, you want to feel confident, you want to feel desired or physically powerful. So the very specific thing you just said you wanted is in fact only a vague description of what you really want. And if you take it a step further, getting that specific thing you just asked for might not accomplish the goal that you have. You could lose 5 pounds or no pounds and feel confident. You could lose 20 pounds and not feel the slightest bit more confident or sexy. This is a big problem for men in conflict. In the world of divorce, when you're a man who doesn't have an emotional vocabulary, this can be really important and impact everybody around you. I have men in my office every week, I had 5 this week, I counted, who told me they wanted 50-50 custody of their children. Now that's a very specific thing. 50-50. Most lawyers, when they get told, it's said about trying to make it happen. But the statement, if you look at it, is absurd to begin with. No intact family really looks at the amount of time they spend with their children in that kind of a bizarre way, with a percentage. If you did, you'd realize pretty quickly it's a moving target, depending on what time of year it is, are the kids in school, what's happening in your professional life. But I hear it all the time from men. I want 50-50 custody. I won't take anything less. And what is it they really want? If they could articulate it, what would they say? I think it would depend on the man. They might say they want to be involved in their children's lives. They might say they don't want to feel less than the other parent. They might say they don't want to be a Disneyland dad, the kind of dad they had but never really knew because of their own divorce. They might just say they're angry at their ex and they want to deprive her of time with the children that they know she wants. They might say they know the prospect of taking the children scares their ex and they want to make her feel that fear. They might say that they screwed up while they were married and they didn't spend much time with their children. But now that their marriage is ending, they're terrified they're going to lose their family and they're trying to cling to their children so they don't go spinning off into some existentialist void. They might say they like watching their kids fall asleep at night, or the way their hair smells after they use that stupid all-in-one shampoo conditioner that kids use. I remember that conditioner, I like the way it smelled. Whatever they would say, if they could tell us the truth, it's not it's not a percentage they're looking for, it's an emotional experience. And if they've got good intentions, it's that they want to be close to their children. If they've got bad intentions, it's that they want to weaponize their children against their ex-wife. But whatever they're looking for, good or bad, it's not a specific mathematical formula. And we can't hear it because they can't say it. So this is, for me, how a man should be, at least in conflict. Men should be better at being hurt. We should be better at expressing it.
We should learn to use our words productively, to use our pain productively, to get it out of us more productively with a healthier kind of catharsis, if catharsis is what's needed. We need to teach our sons that when they get home from school looking furious because a girl broke up with them and we hear them say, I don't care, she's a bitch. In fact, we know what they meant to say is, this hurts so bad I don't know what to do with myself right now. So that's what they should say. And when they punched a wall, they should have been encouraged to instead do what a man does, which is take a breath, or cry, or go for a run. Or if there's just something weird and primal and inexplicable inside you that you don't understand, that feels like you need to punch something, go punch the shit out of a heavy bag for 5-minute rounds. Trust me, I spent a lot of time punching heavy bags. Do it for 10 minutes. You won't be angry anymore. You'll just be fucking tired. Helping men figure this out probably won't solve all the problems of patriarchy, but I think it's a step in the right direction, because we can do better than this. We could add how men process conflict to the growing list of things that we as a culture are thankfully starting to realize aren't binary, like gender and sexual orientation, and that are instead nuanced and beautiful for being nuanced. Because as it stands for so many years, when men are in conflict, either they're strong and emotionally impervious and brutal and aggressive and fearless, or they're soft and pathetic, right? They're either shitty, toxic alpha males, or they're sad, sorry cucks or wimps or fags or pussies or whatever term we use to belittle men who are sad or who display hurt and vulnerability. But we know, if we're smart, we know, the whole strong, vulnerable thing isn't an opposite. There's nothing as strong as being vulnerable and honest in some ways, and there's nothing as gentle and honest as real strength. And that's how, from where I'm standing, a man should be. He should be better at this. He should be better at being hurt. He should be better in conflict. Because I've been watching us fight for 2 decades now, and I don't have faith in much. But I have faith in the fact that we're better than this, men and women. I mean, we put people on the moon. We created the internet and Netflix. We wrote symphonies, and against seemingly insurmountable odds came up almost impossibly with the idea for s'mores. So I have faith that we can figure this out if we try. And at the end of the day, I really believe we all want the same simple things. We want to be safe. We want to have somewhere to go and something to do and someone to love. This doesn't need to be so hard. We shouldn't still be throwing fucking lemons at each other. Thank you.